What is up, my nerds? Welcome back to another episode of The Nerdy Mind. Got a guest on today. Zack is back. What's up, man? How you doing?
Woo! Good, how are you?
Good, man. Good. So I thought it'd be a little fun. I mean, we won't go too in depth with it, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of talk about. You are a voiceover actor.
Me? An
Yes,
actor?
you.
Yes,
Yes,
I am
an
a voiceover
actor. You're a voiceover actor. I thought it'd be interesting. So for some of the audience that may want to, they love watching anime, and they're watching one of their favorite animes and they feel inspired. They're like, oh man, I want to be Kirito, or I want to be All Might, or, Deku. Like for someone who had made the path for himself, did the research, and, took the time to really look into how to become a voice actor. What path did you take? Like what first off, what inspired you to want to do it?
Fair. And I want to just say full disclosure, I am a voiceover actor. I train. I have an agent. I am, those are pretty good credentials, but also in terms of disclosure, I always like to say I have not booked an anime role. I've only ever been in a handful of smaller video game projects, uncredited, indie projects, stuff like that. So I'm still like making my way up the path, but I do acknowledge that I have made my way. I always say it's like climbing a mountain. You got to just, I have my peak goals. For me, it's. I always like to. Okay, I'm just gonna jump right into the advice. I always like to. I set big goals for myself, and then I try to break them down reverse wise. It's a piece of advice I think I got from is another good piece of advice. If you're trying to be a voice actor and you're relatively new to it, Crispin Freeman's Voiceover Mastery podcast is gold. It's got a lot of great information. I've gone back and I've listened to it all the way through twice, and then I kind of pick out episodes sporadically that I've listened to maybe 4 or 5 times. He has a lot of great information in there. He also teaches a class and does one-on-one coaching, I believe, still. If you're a voice actor and you're looking to get into it, that's a really good place to start because it's free, and I've learned more information from his free podcast than I have. Not to plug another podcast, sorry, buddy.
No, you're good.
I've learned more from his free podcast about voice acting than I have in classes that I've paid for before. So
Cool.
A lot of great information in there, a lot of great free resources. There's also I want to be at voiceactor.com, which is run by D. Bradley Baker, I think. And his same thing. He got the questions at cons so often. How do I be a voice actor? That he bought the rights to the website. I want to be a voiceactor.com, and it's got a ton of free resources on there. It's got questions, FAQs. It breaks it down by equipment, by acting, by all that stuff. Great resources out there. But because you're here and now, I'll also give advice. I try to come up with 3 big goals that I'm trying to accomplish. More than that starts to get a little bit, it divides your attention. So like one of my big goals is to be invited to San Diego Comic-Con as a panelist. Now I also have smaller goals. That applies to New York Comic-Con. I want to be invited to cons in general as a guest, but that's my big mountaintop goal. And so then I try to break that down backwards.
That's your peak.
That's one of my peak goals. That's one of the tops of the mountain, where I feel like I would, that would be in theory where I feel like, okay, this is a big accomplishment. This is something that I can look at my career and be like, wow, this is a stamp. Boom, you've made it. You were invited to San Diego Comic-Con, the pinnacle of nerdy cons. And then I break it down backwards. How do I get invited to San Diego Comic-Con? Well, I would probably have to be in a video game or an anime that is very successful. That's not in my control. The success of the show is out of my control, but I can okay, so how do I get in a show? Well, you got to be in a lot of shows, probably. Statistically, the more numbers, the better. Okay, well, how do I get in those? Well, I might need an agent, might not. Some people do, some people don't. And, I maybe I'll start submitting my demos to, Bang Zoom Studios, Funimation, some of the higher dubbing companies, the people who I know are dubbing anime. Submit my demo. Okay, well, I need a demo then. Do I need a character demo? Do I need a commercial demo? Well, if I'm doing video games and anime, a character demo. You might need a video game specific demo. You might have an anime specific demo, but as a base, a character demo to show off your acting range. Okay, I don't have one of those. How do I get one of those? Well, don't ever, 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 in my opinion, make your own demo, because people in the know are going to hear the difference between a professionally recorded demo and a self-recorded demo. Not that they're bad. If you want to use them as a sample, if somebody ever says, do you have any samples, you can record your own. I don't strongly recommend it, but if you're very early, I know I was chomping at the bit just to do it when I decided, when the light switch flipped in my head. So, okay, I went and I found a good reputable coach. I coached with them. They coached me through the demo. When I was ready, I did the demo, and now I have them, and then I started sending them out to places. So that's how I break things down reverse. And it's like, this is not like okay, I'll have this one and done in a year. These are long-term career goals. So
Sure.
I just kind of work backwards. That being said, I'm climbing this mountain, and I continue to look up and think, wow, that's a lot of mountain I still got to climb. That sometimes I forget to look down and be like, oh yeah, I've also climbed a lot of this mountain too.
Yeah. How long, for the audience, how long have you been doing this? Tell them how long you've been.
It is May. Sorry for the clicking of my water bottle. It is May of.
It's the 27th.
May. Yeah. May of 2023. I decided officially that I was gonna try my hand at it. In October of 2018. So about 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. Sounds
yeah. What happened is I was at New York Comic Con with my amazing, beautiful wife, who we were seeing a panel called Twisted Tunes. If you've never seen it, I think they have some clips online too. But it's basically a panel, a thing that happens at conventions. I don't know how. It's like a traveling panel that they do, where they give voice actors, especially like more reputable, legends of the industry kind of people, just like a random script, and then they read it in various characters that they've done. So like when I went, I don't think this was 2018. I think this was the following year, but it's still fun. They had like Phil Lamar, Greg Griffin, James Arnold Taylor, Tom Kenny, who voices SpongeBob. And so they gave him the Dark Knight. And so like I got to see Tom Kenny doing SpongeBob, doing the Joker. And so, he's walking in being like, let your balls drop off. It's just, it's classic. And I watched the whole thing with my wife, and I was like, wasn't that the coolest thing? Like, wouldn't that be the coolest job ever? And she was like, I mean, if you think she was like, yeah, it was pretty cool. And I was like, no, not pretty cool. That was like amazing, would be the best life, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, well, if you think that would be the best life and the best career, you should do it. And I was like, I mean, it would be cool, but like, I can't do what they do. And she was like, yeah, well, they didn't start off being able to do what they do. So like, you should just practice. And like, and I was like, I my brain like hadn't clicked into like, this is a possible, si se puede, it is possible. And I was like, and she was like, you have to be bad at things to be good at things. So just go do it as a hobby. Plenty of people have hobbies. Some people collect stamps or baseball cards. Some people go to, the batting cages or axe throwing, or, people spend money on their hobbies. You can spend money and time on this, and it doesn't have to be like a thing for you. Like, it doesn't have to like immediately support you. You don't have to quit your job. You can just like do it for fun and see where it goes. And then it just immediately clicked in my brain. Something about that sentence was like, oh, it's possible to do this. I can just see where it goes. And if it doesn't go anywhere, that's okay. And I think that safety net of failure of like, it's okay if you fail. It's okay if you don't make it. It's okay if you do that was what made it okay for my brain to try it. And then I, being the Ravenclaw that I am, just jumped in with both feet. Like, I started researching. I started listening to the podcast, the Crispin Freeman podcast I mentioned. There's the VO School podcast. That is also invaluable and covers a lot more of the business stuff. I ended up finding a place that does like classes and stuff like that. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I started coaching. And I will say this. For those who want to get into it, don't feel pressured. I've been doing this for 4.5 years, and I did not have pedal to the metal for 4.5 years. There were stretches of 3, 4, 5, 6 months where like I was like, I know I should be training right now, but life is very hectic, and I felt bad about it, but I always came back to it, and I kept coming back to it, and I kept coming back to it. And the more I came back to it and the more I put energy into it, the more success I saw. So I ended up getting all my demos done, which in voice acting, there are, I think, 3 primary demos that you should have, which is your commercial demo, your narration demo, and your character demo. And then if you want to get into some sub demos, video games, anime, if you're really good at like, I know some people who have just booked a bunch of kids' toys, where you squeeze them and they're like, "I love you," and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, and so I think the person who I know who's specifically good at this ended up getting like a specific toy demo done because it's like, hey, I'm already booking these. I might as well put together a demo with some of the previous clips that I've already done, kind of splice it in with some that I like am making myself, and so now she's got that. So there's tons of specifics you can get into, but the primary 3 I think are commercial, narration, and character.
Okay. And for a while, I remember you coming to me and telling me that you wanted to do this, and you were like bright eyes, you were like ready to go into it, and you were like, I remember you spending like doing actual classes, right? You did like actual class time.
I've done
coaches.
I'm constantly in classes still to this day. I have a class that I just booked yesterday for the people who I currently coach with now. I will give them a plug because they're amazing and wonderful and kind and supportive, and I will shout their praises to the rooftop. Is the Academy of Voice Arts and Productions, formerly Adventures in Voice Acting, run by Dora Fine. Tony Oliver, who is a legendary director in the industry and a voice actor himself, and just a wonderful person, does coaching as well there. Anytime Tony Oliver talks, and I just got back from, we're going to get into this, but I just got back from a convention where he did a lot of panels, and just everything that he says is gold. Like in group classes, they'll tell you a lot. Hey, when somebody else is going and it's not your turn, still pay attention because you're going to get some information out of what the director's saying.
Sure.
Which is generally true. But as somebody with ADHD, sometimes I'm on my phone. Real talk. Sometimes, somebody's going and my brain needs to decompress, or I'm trying to practice mine because mine's coming up. You do your best. With Tony Oliver, you shut up and you listen because everything he says is gold. Absolute 100%. Not even golden nuggets. I'm talking gold bars. This man is the golden goose, and everything he says is
he's laying eggs.
Just perfect.
He's laying golden eggs. Okay. That's pretty interesting though. Like so I guess for people to, so you obviously, I think the route is to sign up for classes. Is the ultimate route.
It can be. So here's the thing. Yes, classes are great and a really, really good jumping off point because you will get a little bit of time to do your performance, and then you'll get some time to be able to listen to other people's performances. As Crispin Freeman says on his podcast all the time, good artists borrow, great artists steal. So steal good tips from people. If somebody's doing something you like and they sound like you do what they do. Yeah. If your acting tool belt is going to be big, and you're going to need a lot of different tools in your belt. So if somebody says something great, that's where group classes can be great. I do also strongly recommend one-on-one classes. Even if you're an actor, even if you have a theater background, even if you're doing all that, voice acting can be a different beast entirely, especially anime, because if you're dubbing anime, your acting tool belt is suddenly a little lighter because, if you're angry, you might be slowing down to really deliver the point that you are pissed. But if in anime, you don't get that time. You have to match the mouth flaps. And so you don't, as to quote Tony Oliver, because it's always a good idea, there are no commas in anime. You get, if you're lucky, you get a little hitch, which means that there's a break in the line. But if there's a comma in the script, no, there's not. It is there for grammatic reasons so that you understand the structure of the sentence, but do not slow down for commas or periods. You go until the line stops. So, again, that's their group classes are great. I think one-on-one classes are more beneficial, but I think that's something.
Okay.
Take some group classes first. Make sure it's for you. Make sure you like it. Make sure that passion is still there after you've gotten your hands on it and gotten in the mud a little bit. But then from there, I think one-on-one classes are, or one-on-one coaching is probably one of the most beneficial things you can do to your career. They can be expensive. I'm lucky enough that I'm a 30-plus-year-old adult with a steady income, and I have very little hobbies outside. That's not true. I have other hobbies. I spend a lot of money on board games and video games. But outside of that, when I want to prioritize my money, it goes straight into this. And I'm also fortunate enough that I book enough jobs that I can the wheel turns itself. So I book
Feeds
a job
right into it.
Yep, I book a job. For example, I just booked a job last week. It was for $500, just full disclosure, which not a ton, but not nothing, and after taxes and everything like that, I just ended up with like $350, and I bought myself if you go to the Academy of Voice Arts and Production, you can buy a 4-pack of individual coachings for if you have their membership, I think it's like $325. So I just turned that right around. I booked a job, I got the money, I put that money towards coaching, and then I put that coaching towards getting better, and hopefully it'll get to a point where I'm making a lot more than I'm coaching, so I'm able to put that money. But again, every time I book a job, sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. I have a separate account just for my voiceover money, and I use that to spin the wheel.
Yeah, you're treating it as like a small business, which is essentially can be.
Which it is, yeah.
When you make money, you got to feed more into the business to keep getting better and bigger. So okay, I'll ask this question, then we'll hop into because you went on a trip. So if someone was fresh and new, and they were like, well, I don't have too much money, what would be the ultimate things to set up for them to get into it? Like, what kind of microphone or what kind of things would you suggest?
So if you're just starting out, there's some priorities that I would say a lot of people when they get into it, they want to get right into it, and it's fun to buy the tech because it's something you can control. And when you're in that stage of your career, a lot of things are out of your control, and a lot of things are going to feel you're going to be chomping at the bit. When I started doing this, I just wanted to voice act all the time. And even when I was getting auditions and stuff, I was like, yeah, auditions are cool, but I really want to, sink my teeth into it. I really want to book something. And I hate to be the person who's giving the advice I heard at that stage of my career and just kind of pass it along to the next generation. But it's auditioning is going to be the job, because you're going to audition day in and day out, but you're not going to book a job day in and day out. If you're lucky, you'll get a, fairly consistent booking schedule, and that's awesome, but that's hardly promised as a voice actor. So you're going to be chomping at the bit. You can start with a good, okay. So realistically talking, if you're just trying to get your hands on something, if you're just trying to practice or whatever, you can get a plug-in, what's called a USB microphone, which is just it's a USB port, and you plug it right into your laptop, your computer, whatever the case may be. That's going to allow you to be recorded. Those aren't the best mics. A lot of people will go with a Blue Yeti, something like that, which is not bad for podcasting. It's not bad for whatever, but in our industry, what's called an XLR mic is a little bit better, which is it's what I'm using right now. So my microphone is a TLM 103, which is expensive, and you don't have to get that right off the bat. I do this professionally, so I have a what I consider a studio quality mic. You can probably get away with, I think it's the AT. It's either the AT2020 or the AT2500, which is a microphone that you can plug in that's relatively inexpensive. You get yourself I have a Focusrite Scarlett Solo 3, I believe, which is my audio interface. So basically what happens is the XLR mic plugs into the box. The box processes the audio, and then the box plugs into my computer, so everything comes through a little bit cleaner, a little bit smoother, and it allows for my microphone to be able to capture more of my voice. When you have a USB, they kind of have to pack all of the stuff from my Focusrite or from an audio interface into the microphone to process it. And so it just doesn't do it as cleanly, as smoothly, and you're not going to get, the deep, rich tones of my voice. But I would say you can get a relatively affordable mic. More importantly, is going to be your recording space. Because if I have the best microphone in the world, but I'm recording in a bathroom with hard surfaces and that are reflective of sound, it's going to sound like it's going to be worse, because it's going to pick up every little echo and every little beat and hiccup and everything like that. So a lot of people, real talk, I just left a convention where I heard a lot of these questions being answered, and I heard a lot of voice actors who are above me saying the same thing. You can record in a closet, especially if you have like a walk-in closet or a closet that is double-sided that has clothes on both sides. Clothes are already great sound absorbers because they're soft cloth. And the way, not to get too much into details here, but when with sound, it's an actual reflection of the energy of the sound. So if you have something that is like flat, it's not. I have flat, soft surfaces back here. If you're watching the YouTube video, this is sound curtain, so that it catches things, and that's relatively flat. But the way clothes are, because they're like rigid and they're not always the same size, and sound can kind of go in between the clothes and then kind of get trapped in there. It's a really great place to record. So if you have room in a closet, you can do that. If you are looking to go all in and you happen to be like me and have disposable income and everything, I have, again, for the YouTubers here, my side, these are sound panels. Over here, I have more sound panels. Look at them. They're colorful. Isn't that great? So I do that. I built my own. Relatively easy to make. Hang on, I'm going to fix my camera. Relatively easy to make. I just bought a bunch of sound foam. I think it cost me $200 to get I went for different colors. You don't have to. My policy was, if I'm going to be in there for hours a day, I want it to at least be pretty. But it cost me $200, and then I went out and I like a science fair. Remember back in science fair when you would make those like boards and it would be like, open up and it would be like a threefold board. I took those, I cut the sides off, and then I just did spray adhesive and stuck the foam to it. Sometimes they stick to it, sometimes they don't. One of them has fallen off, and I just kind of propped it against the wall. But I just did that, and I bought a bunch of them, and then I put what are the like adhesives with like Velcro that you can put?
Command
strips. Thank you. I put command strips on the back, so anytime I want to move these, or if I have to take them down, or if I'm about to expand my studio a bunch. And so when I do, I can just move them. It's very easy. It doesn't damage the walls. So even if you're renting in an apartment, you can do that, and it's a good option without having to like fix the walls later. So as far as the stuff you need, I would recommend an XLR mic, the AT20. Either 2020 or 2500. You can Google it. In fact, if you go to, remember I was talking about the Crispin Freeman podcast? If you find he has like a corresponding website, so Crispin Freeman's voiceactingmastery.com, I think, or voiceactingmastery.com. He has like an equipment section for beginners, middle, and pros that I can do. But more important than anything is going to be your acting. Please make sure to take acting classes, because I can be set up like a pro in here, but if they're like, all right, we need an angry 40-year-old man, and I walk in and I'm like, I am an angry 40-year-old man, how dare you? You can have the best mic in the world. It's just gonna magnify your performance. So be a good actor. This is again advice that everybody gives and everybody gets, and it's so frustrating because you won't hear it until you need it. But the most important part of voice acting is acting, not the voice. So if I could go out there and be a weird guy with a weird voice, but that's all I can do, it's not going to get me anywhere. If I go out here and this is my character, oh, it's so much fun. He's an anxious character. He's goofy. And then they're like, cool, be sad. His brother died. And I'm like, oh no, my brother died. Whoa. Like, That's
Yeah.
not what they're going to go for. So, like, the voice
Yeah.
is the icing on the cake. Make sure that you have cake. If you don't have that,
Makes sense.
core baked in acting, then the funny voice is just, everyone in this industry, well, not everyone, a lot of people in this industry have been told at one point or another, you have a good voice, or you have a storyteller's voice, or you should be on the radio, or you should do voice acting. That's great. That is a leg up on people who don't have that. But if you don't have any acting, I've seen people with phenomenal voices, just not have the acting skill. And I hope that they get it, and I hope that they've gotten it since I've seen them do it. But there are definitely people who you're like, wow, it's a really amazing voice, and it's not being used well. It's a wonderful tool in the hands of a novice. So you gotta be more than a novice with your acting.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, that's good advice. So for anyone out there who wants to be a voice actor, check out Crispin Friedman's website, podcast. He tells you how to really get started, and just like Zach said, practice, and do some classes. So let's talk about you. You went on a trip, right?
I did.
You went on a trip to pursue more of voice acting stuff. It was a competition, wasn't it?
It was. So I went to Anime Central in Chicago. They Bang Zoom Studios, who voices a lot of top tier anime, was there, and they were doing an open audition. So you could pre-register, get your information in, and I don't even think you needed to pre-register. I think it was just helpful. You get there, the con opens. People go to the show floor and to go shopping, or to go to panels, or to whatever the case. A handful of us, I would say 50 to 100 of us, were bum rushing the Bang Zoom booth because it was first come first serve. They do as many auditions in about an hour and a half as they can. You get on stage, it's a real process. It's a competition. There's 3 rounds. It was. Yeah, the first round is a cold read, where you're handed, you get to pick one of, I think, 6 different archetypes. So there was like the knight, the ruler, the sidekick, stuff like that, the mentor. And then there are sides that they actually have used in the past, that give you, the rundown. Angry scene, you are angry, and then here's your line, and then the next line is, distraught, and then you read your line, and you go up on, normally where I'm in this, which is my booth, which is insulated with my nice TLM 103 microphone and all that stuff. This was a karaoke style microphone.
Right.
And first round, again, you read those sides. If they and again, not an indictment of your talent. It's just who they're looking for and what they're looking for. But then if they like you for what they're looking for, you go to the next round where you dub. You do some live action dubbing, which is they'll take some of their dubs for educational purposes. They will put it up on the screen. You'll dub over, and they brought audio engineers with them who are insanely talented and wonderful people. And they do it like they would if it was like a real anime session, where here's your line. You get somebody giving you direction, whether that's Tony Oliver or Mami Okada, who is one of their casting directors and directors there, and she's wonderful and sweet and kind, and they give you instruction. That was really good, but remember this, you're really putting everything, you're about to, there's a chance you're going to die in this scene, and so you're really digging deep and blah, 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 and so then you give your performance, and they dub you in, which is a really cool experience for those who get to go up and see their voices dubbed over some of their favorite animes. When I went in 2000... and 19, I believe.
I'll say this is your second time, right?
This is my second time. Yep. When I went in 2019, they had a lot of like sword art, which was really cool. I know cool. that you and I are both big sword art fans. In fact, that was the winner got to dub in sword art. They were like a character in the show. I have a sticker that says I auditioned for Sword Art Online, which I think is really cool because I love sword art.
Yeah, it's cool.
So and then if you make it out of those people who got a callback, which is I think out of like the 50 to 100 people who got to audition, I think it was like 6 to 9 that made it to the dubbing round, and then from those 6 to 9 they pick 3 people who make it to the finals, and then on Sunday they did all the finalists together, and they do another round of dubbing to see how it goes. It was really cool because some of the scenes people got to dub opposite characters. So, like they did the well, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk. Hopefully, I would be able to, but I'm not going to just to be safe. But people basically got to be like, here's the hero, you're dubbing for the hero, and then someone else got the same scene, but it was like, you're dubbing for the villain, and then they did them together just to see what it would sound like, and they sound really good. One of the things I'll say about dubbing, if for people who are in that stage of the career, is a lot of times you're going to feel like your performance felt flat, even if you gave it everything you've got, even if you gave it a 9 or a 10 on your energy scale. It's going to feel like it's missing something, and it's because it's missing the sound and the music and the all the stuff that makes a show. You're not the voice actors are just a piece of the puzzle, so when it all comes together, it sounds a lot better, and it's very cool.
I'm sorry, I'm asking a question and interrupting, but like,
no, please.
For the dubbing, when you're recording, do you not hear like any of the fighting at all? Like you just hear, like you just see the video and
Good
that's it.
question. Sometimes, usually, especially when you're doing anime dub, what'll happen is they will play you the Japanese version so that you can get a hear for what the tone is. For example, if it was Naruto, which I'm just pulling out of nowhere, and I was dubbing Sasuke, they would play me the line in Japanese. So I would hear. Sometimes the music's there, sometimes it's not, but usually it is, so that you can get a feel for the vibe.
Sure.
And then they'll dub you in, and they do the beeps. So for those unfamiliar, what'll happen is right before your line, they'll put in 3 beeps so that you know exactly where to start your line. So it's beep, 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 and then on the 4th beep, the imaginary beep, is when you start your line. So piece of advice for those, again, another Tony Oliver piece of gold, is take a deep breath on 1. So when you hear the first beep, 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 that way on the 4th beep, you're not going, I believe that I can do it, like I have to kill my brother, like, because they can adjust it if they need to, but because you're trying really hard to match the mouth flaps so that the timing comes perfectly, because timing is very important. They can maybe push or pull it a little bit just to make sure it fits, but I'm talking, it's
a cadence. It's a cadence. You got to be on cadence.
It's a cadence, and especially if there is one of those hitches that I mentioned earlier, where there's just a little pause, you have to make sure that you pause when they pause. So, it's very interesting. They play a line, but when they play it back, you're usually just hearing yourself. They don't add in the SFX and everything like that. But again, I haven't done an official session. Like I've done a lot of ADR coaching. I've done ADR group classes. I've done workouts and stuff like that. But so I do have real experience with it. I just don't have like in-session experience, because I want to be full disclosure of like where I am in my career.
Sure. It's kind of crazy though. Like you go from 50 to 100, and they knock it all the way down to like 6 to 9 people the second round.
Yeah,
that's a lot of people they cut.
It is
quick.
And what made me feel a lot better, I only had my first round, but that doesn't mean I did badly. The reason I know that is because I was very, very fortunate. This trip was not only a very great experience for me professionally, but I made a lot of really good friends, and I've done this in the past. And I mean, we ended up forming, by the end, a group of about 20 people, and most of us, basically everyone who was in the finals, is in our group, which was really cool.
Oh, wow.
So we ended up just kind of like this group of people, we stuck each other together, and then, every time somebody was passionate and happy and supportive, we brought them in. It was like, cool, I know this person, great, oh, that person's awesome, oh, this person's wonderful, let's go talk to them. And by the end, it was like 20 people who were supporting each other, screaming for each other, cheering for each other, giving each other advice. We all ended up going out to dinner. Like it was in terms of like, it was networking, but it didn't feel like networking. It felt like I made 20 best friends overnight, which was an amazing experience.
Right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I know that I watched people who were extraordinarily talented go up onto the stage and not get a callback, because again, you just don't know what they're looking for. They have a parameter in mind for what they're looking for, and I know the winner. His name is Ty, and he's a sweetheart and a wonderful guy. And he absolutely deserved it. But his voice, maybe my voice just didn't hit the right beats for what they were looking for, or maybe this person, this girl was an amazing like mom character, but they were looking for like a more younger girl sounding character, a young teenager girl. Well, if you're doing the mom character, it's not to say that you didn't hit a home run with that audition. It just wasn't what they were looking for. So, and that's something we always try to tell ourselves as voice actors. It's usually true. This is a piece of advice I always give other people. This is a Zack in the original, so enjoy. When you audition, you are trying to accomplish two goals. The first goal is to book the job. It makes sense. You're auditioning, you want the job. The second goal, and the more important in my opinion, is that you're trying to make an impression. You're trying to be somebody that gets their attention, even if it's not, you don't book the job. Because I could audition for any main character, and they could be like, well, we were looking for somebody with a deeper voice, maybe a more intimidating voice. We really want him to have that like Yami Yugi deep voice.
Gravel, yeah.
And I'm up here. I'm doing my young. This is the character I went with up here, and it's like that's not gonna fly. But if they hear that and they go, "Wow, that's really good," it's not what we're looking for, but it's really good. There's a chance that if you do well enough, they're gonna write your name down or put your name on a list somewhere, and then a week, a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years later, they might be like, "Oh man, you know what? We have the perfect role finally." I've heard stories of people being like, "We've wanted to work with you for years." And it's like, you as an actor, you have no idea because you submit it and then they do all of that stuff on their end, and you don't get an email that says you were the third runner-up, but we really liked your voice. They just make a note of it and put it in a file somewhere, or they make a note of it and they put it in a folder on their computer of people I'd like to work with. But it's not like you get a ping for that. So most of us just submit auditions, or in this case, just do auditions on a live stage in front of 50 to 100 other voice actors, and you just hope that you made an impression. But that's why when you audition, there's, in my opinion, the two main goals, and I always focus on number two because number two will get you repeat work, whereas number one may or may not. I may book a commercial with Coca-Cola, which is amazing and would be wonderful. But if I do it and they're like, it was fine and we had him and like blah, blah, blah. But if I do number two and I don't book the job, but they're like, man, he has a great voice. In fact, we have this project coming up that we think he'd be great for. And they've got a great impression of me. They want to work with me. And then when I work with them, you're professional, you're kind, you're considerate, and you do all the right things. You make a good impression. And then now they want to work with you more often. So both number one and number two will accomplish goals, but for me, I always try to number two more than anything else, which I now realize is a poo joke.
So you get into round two, but like, what was your overall experience? Like, were you nervous, or like, how did you feel about your performance overall?
I personally liked my performances. I felt very good about them, which is not always the case. Sometimes as an actor, you just miss the mark, and it happens, and you just gotta be better next time. I liked all my performances. I think I did a pretty good range of them. I started. What was my first one? Either way, I went all the way from 40-year-old mentorish character. The day before, I did the anarchist character, and I went with a different route because a lot of people were going deep, so I went high, and I did more of like a Joker-y voice with it. I liked all my performances, which is not something I say every time. That's why when I didn't get called for the next round, I was bummed, sure, especially because I was using this. I told myself this will be a good measuring stick to see. It's been 4 years since the last one and everything like that. But I felt good about my performances. When I went up in 2019, I think they were fine. I think my performances back there were all right. I also got to audition all 3 days this time, which was very fortunate, and I was very lucky to be able to do so. So I got to really start to play around with it. The first day, there were some nerves, there were some jitters for sure. I try to do like a pre-ritual when in those situations where it's on stage and stuff like that, where I put my headphones in, which allows me to dim. It's very loud when they're there because they have the big speakers set up. And as somebody with ADHD, I get overstimulated fairly easily. So I pop my noise canceller headphones in, and I put some soft music on, and then I put some inspirational music on, the kind of music you play in the gym to like, you can do this, you can hype yourself up, you're the man, you're born for that, that kind of stuff. Put that on. I read the sides, and I tell myself all the pieces of advice I know that I regularly need. Slow down, speak slower, speak with purpose. This is your moment, this is your stage. Go up there, take a deep breath, and just be authentic. Be yourself when you're reading these lines, and let the character come through you. And that's I would zone out and let myself do that, and then I would practice. I would read it, and because I have the noise cancelers in, I can usually hear myself better than I could if I had them out. So the first time in 2019 when I did it, I was very, very nervous. I was shaking. I'm holding the page and shaking. This time they're still shaking, and there's a little bit of an adrenaline rush, so that's going to happen. But I felt more comfortable being up there, and as I said, I made a bunch of friends throughout the con, and we were all very supportive. So by day 2 and day 3, I know I've got my own cheering section, which helps. And that there's a real thing called red light syndrome, which is described, I think, mostly for on-screen people, but I think it's perfectly transferable to voice actors as well, which is, when I practice, I'm like, I feel great about this. This is, I practice this perfectly. And the second you switch on the record button, you get stiff and you get awkward. And it's because you're a little bit anxious and your brain is telling you you're being observed right now. And so you get the jitters. So the more you can expose yourself to that, the easier it gets. And then also I do a lot of mental health work on myself. Therapy, and my wife and I talk about it all the time. And so I'm able to identify things like when I have that, I get stress right here, right over the heart area. And so when I feel that tension building, I'm able to be like, okay, the red light is on. Take a deep breath, breathe out the anxiety, let it slow down, relax your chest, loosen your muscles, and that helps. And that's one of the things I did when I was on stage, which is as they're setting up the mic for me to make sure that it's right where it needs to be, I take a couple deep breaths. I try to identify any anxiety that I'm holding in my body and just kind of let it out to the best of my ability, and then just be authentic.
Yeah, it's different too, because especially if you take a speech. You're trying to do a speech and you're practicing and you're in your own space. Doing acting, you're in your own house. You're in your own booth. You're in your own room. You're in your comfort zone. You're in your comfort space. But now you're in front of hundreds of people who are all doing the same thing you are, who all want the same opportunity you do. And then that subconsciously gets in your head. And it's almost like, I get stage fright. I'm a pretty good public speaker, but if I like to talk in front of hundreds of people, I'm like, oh God, I don't want to sound like an idiot, And so I can't imagine what it's like to be in front of, especially bigwigs in the industry who want to hear your chops, and then you have hundreds of people behind you who
in front of you. You're when I do it, it's it's literally I'm facing, oh God, hit my mic. I'm facing out, and I'm facing voice actors who are facing me. It's like any other stage where you're trying to face out. So I'll be honest, I go into a zone. I think I remember 4 seconds of the crowd total, and that was the end of the day on Sunday. My character ended with a 3-2-1 push. So I knew I had gotten to the 3-2-1 push stage, so I put the script down and I was like 3, 2 to kind of get the crowd into it. But that's really the only thing I remember. Otherwise, I'm so focused on the script in front of me that I don't. It all blurs.
God, I would have shut down, dude. I that stage fright would have so much anxiety for me, especially I don't know, I love being in my own comfort zone. I love being, of course, you gotta get out of your comfort zones, but I like being in my my space, my own space. Doing this podcast. I love doing this podcast because I'm in my own house. I'm in my own area. If we were to do this live, I might be a little more nervous. But I mean, I've been doing it for a little bit longer now, to where I'd probably feel comfortable. But I can't imagine like having. Do you have like spotlights and shit on you?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's even worse. So like you can't even like see sometimes.
Oh no,
like,
I mean
like
it was well lit still. I could see everybody,
Okay.
but there were
Okay.
lights focused on the stage. But like, but okay, so let's say you take this podcast on the road. Let's say you end up invited to MagFest. We talked about MagFest way back early in the podcast.
Right.
If you were to do like a panel room with like 100 to 200 people in the room, just like listening to us do this, I don't think you would be tremendously nervous about it. It's because you've been building up your podcasting skills. You know, you're charismatic. This is your sweet spot. Your podcast is your baby, your home away from home. So like when you get up there, you can do it. I've been doing this for 4.5 years. So like I feel confident enough in my skills to go up there and not be super nervous about it. And because it's low stakes, I mean, here's the thing. It's high stakes. You know, the winner of this competition gets flown out by Anime Central to Burbank, California, to Bang Zoom Studios, where that person, Ty in this case, is going to get to be. I don't think that they decided specifically on a show because the way simuldubs work, everything runs a lot faster now. So before, in 2019, before they did a lot of simuldubs, for those who don't know, simuldubs are when the episode drops in Japan and America on the same day, which is really, really tough for the English people because they get the polished final episode and then they have maybe 3 days to record the entire episode, edit it, put it together, and drop it because they want to drop it the same day as the Japanese,
Right.
Which is what happened. They used to do it where like the English would drop a week or two later or a month or two later, and now it's like, nope, same day. So you got to get it, you got to go. So I think what they were saying is that instead of sticking him in a specific role, which might make it tough in case the flights get canceled or COVID happens or whatever the case may be, they just basically are saying we're going to put you in something. We just haven't decided what yet. It'll just depend on when and how. So that's a bit of speculation on my part. I'm piecing together pieces of information that I, from what they had said. But yeah, sure. It's there are definitely stakes involved in the situation. But I went into it with I don't know. My mentality going in this year was that I was like, not in a harmful way. I want to win, but I don't think I'm going to win. I feel like that's someone else's victory to have, and I'm going to have plenty of victories on my own, and I ended up having plenty of victories on my own. I had a great weekend. I made a ton of friends. I did a lot of networking. I, got to spend time with my mentors who I've been coaching with, which was wonderful, and getting to see them in person instead of in a box on my screen was amazing. So I no regrets. So because I was going in with that mentality of like, this is just another way for me to like put the blade on the whetstone, so to speak. Like, if I won, I won, and I really just wanted to make it to the second round so that I could be like, yep, in 2019 I was here, in 2023 I was here, and see that linear progress. I didn't get it, but I felt good enough about my performances, and I had enough now friends to tell me that you did great. That was wonderful. I'm surprised you didn't get called to second round, or I voted for you in the audience participation category because they had some scholarship stuff for you could vote on your favorites. So I felt great about it. I didn't need the external validation. I was able to get internal validation on it, and that's a win in itself.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I mean, that's a good way to look at it. So, I mean, how often do they have these events?
I know that, so they did it in 2017, 18, 19, 20, obviously COVID happened. And then last year they did, the Academy of Voice Arts and Productions came out and did the scholarship, but Bang Zoom didn't do their like big grand prize. It was just Dora and her crew that were there. This year was both Bang Zoom and the Academy of Voice Arts and Productions. And so I think they're going to try to resume it, but I know they have a good relationship with the Anime Central leadership. And so I think it's
Mhm.
just going to be it's going to be one of those, like, we're going to keep coming out every year. So it should be at Anime Central every year, but always keep an eye out on the Bang Zoom. They'll push it. Academy of Voice Arts and Production will push it on their socials and whatnot. If you're coaching with them, you'll be aware of it. The word spreads amongst the groups. I'm pretty sure it's going to be an every year thing. I think now that a COVID resurgence aside, or another pandemic aside, I think it's going to be something that they do on a yearly basis. So it'll be May-ish every year. It was last weekend for me. So yeah, it was my anniversary weekend. So happy 7 years, Britton. We both had acting projects.
So
she was in a small
okay.
film that was at Baltimore City Charm Festival, some small film festival. She was in Sunday, and I had this on the weekend, and we were like, I love you to death. We had to postpone Battleversary, which is how we celebrate our anniversary every year. Is we get all our friends together and we put them in groups and we play a bunch of games, and whoever's team wins becomes Battleversary champion. We have a belt for it because we're cute like that. So we had to postpone that. But it was like we both were just chasing our passions, and it was.
Yeah.
I have an amazing wife who was like, go, and I can't go because I have this thing, but you go, and I did, and I had a blast.
That's awesome, man. So you think you're gonna go every year?
Yeah, for sure. Even if I win, which, seems arrogant, but if I were to win, I would just come back as a former winner, and I would not compete, but I would go and support people, especially because of the community that I made for myself this year. Until every single one of us wins, I'll keep going to support the people who want to keep going. And if I'm lucky, maybe at some point I'll be incorporated into the groups who run things. If I'm lucky, maybe as a former winner, I'll be able to go and help set things up and help run the booth and do stuff like that. I would love that, but that'll be up to fate in the future to decide.
Okay. Well, Zach, I appreciate you giving your advice to future and maybe eager voice actors out there. Any last words you would like to give someone who's inspiring to do this?
Yes. A piece of advice. This is purely my piece of advice. I haven't heard anyone say it specifically, but I see it a lot, especially on like Twitter and whatever. You're not an aspiring voice actor. You're not trying to become a voice actor. You're a voice actor. If you've decided you wanted to be a voice actor, then you are. It's not something that maybe the title of professional voice actor you can add once you've made money off of it. But if you've made any amount of if you've made $5 as a voice actor, you're a professional. You got paid. That's what a professional is. You don't hear people. Think about it this way: if Shane, you've done HVAC, you've done stuff like that. That's your main grind. Imagine if you had your own website that was, for HVAC services and stuff like that. You were trying to get your HVAC business off the ground. Would you put on your website aspiring HVAC technician, or would you just say HVAC technician?
No, I'd say HVAC.
Right. You're not an aspiring voice actor. Always assume that every bit of your social media, of anything that is publicly facing, always assume that a client will be looking at that. And if I'm a client and it's between me and you, Shane, and on my Twitter I say professional voice actor, blah, 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 or on my website it says professional voice actor, da, 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 da. And then they go to yours, and again, they've narrowed it down to me and you, and then they go to your Twitter or your LinkedIn or your whatever, and it says aspiring voice actor. Now, don't get me wrong, performance is going to weigh out usually over anything, but for the sake of perception, why would you ever limit yourself? Why would you be the one to say, right, I'm an aspiring voice actor, rather than just saying you're a voice actor? I see it all the time, and I get it. I get the pull to it, but just always assume that anything that is publicly facing will be viewed by the biggest client of your life. And if there's no way you could possibly get it. I keep using Coke as a reference because everybody knows Coke. If let's say randomly Coke is looking for a new, young, we want to foster this person from scratch, and they're going to be the new voice of Coke going forward. We've got a campaign that's going to be huge. We're going to bring back the polar bears, and you're going to voice one of the polar bears.
Right.
And then they go to your website and they see aspiring voice actor, just trying to make my way in this industry and really blah blah blah. It's not going to show any confidence in yourself, and you might feel like you're trying to be honest, but your honesty is your performance. You know, you can be an aspiring voice actor and you can be a tremendous talent, and you can be a seasoned veteran with very little talent, but if you aren't acting like it, or if you're not outwardly facing, you know, publicly showing that you are, you know, a confident voice actor, people might not take you as seriously. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean it in a way that, like, I would love to never see another friend request come on Twitter that says aspiring voice actor or trying to be a voice actor. You are a voice actor. You're, you know, I heard a great piece of advice. I'm going to mess it up. It was in my friend group from ASIN, because now we have a Discord going. That was, it's something along the lines of, like, if you're a doctor and you're in like your first year, what is it they go through? It's
it's so you clinicals.
If you're doing your, like, clinical year where you're like, hey, I'm a medical doctor, I just have to go through my you know, year or two of, like, hands-on training. You wouldn't say I'm a doctor, but I'm in clinicals. Like, you would just, I'm a young doctor. I'm a young voice actor. That's okay. You can say that. I'm a young voice actor. I wouldn't say new. You wouldn't say I'm a new doctor. You would, but, like, you know, just because you're putting in the, you know, if you're putting in effort with training and classes and learning and trying to be the best you can, you're a voice actor. That's part of being, that's part of the job. That's a lot of the job. So have faith in yourself, have confidence in yourself. Get a good coach, get somebody reputable who you trust with, get somebody who will stay with you too. I've done coachings and classes with people where it ends. You know, I've done coaching where you buy a handful of coaching sessions, and that's fine. But, like, what I mean more is, like, when I first started, I had coaches, I didn't have a mentor, and I'm still shopping for a mentor, but, like, I have people who I consider mentor or mentoree in my life now, and it's invaluable because I can go to them with questions if anytime something pops up. Second piece of advice is there's a community out there for a reason. The community can feel very big. Find a smaller version of your community. And then the third piece of advice that I always give people, and they always take this the wrong way, so I'm going to try to be as specific as possible with this. I put this out a while ago on Twitter, and I said, it's great to have legends to look up to. You know, I look up to Phil Lamar, Crispin Freeman, Gray Griffin, Jack DeSena. There are a lot of people that are on that upper echelon. You know, you've heard them, and Matt Mercer is a lot of people's go-to because of how much, you know, how talented he is. But basically anyone on the critical role, because of how popular it is amongst the community. Those are people you look up to. You're never going to catch those people because they're going to retire at a place that is just above. You know, you're just never going to catch up to them. It's great to watch them. It's great to see what they're doing. It's great to keep track of it and support them and do all those things. I think it is invaluable to have somebody, I would say 2 to 3 people who are 5 years ahead of you, 3 years ahead of you, 1 year ahead of you, and around your same level. The people who are 5 years ahead of you are going to be doing things that you could obtainably do. So, you know, I have somebody who I've been watching since I first started. He probably was where I am now, or a little around where I am now when I first jumped in. And now he's out there crushing the game. He is in big time video games. He's getting he booked a thing to be the voice of a football team, so that whenever there's like a this week on, you know, the Eagles versus the blah blah blah, like he's that voice. Like he's out there absolutely crushing it. His name's Luis. He's amazing. I have reached out to him for advice before, and he was gracious enough to give me advice. But because I'm watching him and I'm like, cool, when I first started watching you, you didn't have an agent. And then you went here. And so I'm like, well, maybe I'll try going there. And, you get those steps from people who are 5 years ahead of you because they have, again, where I am right now, I'm giving advice to people on this podcast. You know, follow me if you feel like you don't have to. That's not a self-promotion thing. But, I'm 4 or 5 years into my career. If you're just starting, I fit the bill. Finding someone who's 3 years ahead of you, you're gonna relate more to their struggles. They're gonna say, "Oh man, I really just want to, get an agent, or I really want to just, get into my first video game." And then when they start to succeed, talk to them. How did you do that? Did you send them your demo? Did somebody know you? Did like blah blah blah? And just get pieces of information. Somebody who's 1 year ahead of you, same thing. They're just ahead of you. So when they're finishing their demo, and you're like, "Wow, your demo sounds great. Where did you go?" You're gonna get this pool of information. Whereas the 5-year person, you might not reach out and say, "Hey, where did you get your demo done?" You certainly can. One of the great things about the voiceover community is that they're one of the most loving, supportive communities, especially amongst the acting community. We're like an oddity because everybody wants to support people. Everybody, if I'm doing a job and they're like, "Hey, can you do this big booming voice?" I can say, "I can try it for you. I'm certainly happy to see how it goes. But if not, I know this one person who's wonderful, who can do a big booming voice. Oh, cool. What's their information?" And then like, that's how a lot of people get their first job, is through like, "Oh, I know somebody." In fact, one of the things I heard consistently throughout the weekend from both coaches, directors, and voice actors is, your first anime role or your first video game role, it's probably going to come from a referral. It's as you have to be talented and you have to be, ready to go. So when the opportunity presents itself, you're good, but it's probably going to be a networking thing. So network with people around you, network with the people you can, but also, again, have the people you look up to, the Matt Mercers, the Gray Griffins, the Tara Strongs, the James Arnold Taylors. Know that those people are the Mount Rushmores, the people who you would love to be those people. You would love to work with those people, but realistically, you're never going to be able to reach out to Tara Strong and have a one-on-one conversation about how she got where she is. Have people, and when I give this piece of advice, and when I gave this piece of advice last time, the immediate response was like, "I love Tara Strong. I love Matt Mercer. Yeah, I follow their career." And I'm like, that I just told you to do the opposite, which is like, look at them as the stars they are, but they're not going to be obtainable to you. They're not going to be somebody you can access for information. Right. Find people in your career who are slightly ahead of you in different phases and ask them questions, get comfortable with them, because A, it's a networking opportunity, but B, it's just, voiceover in general is stumbling through the dark and trying to figure it out. If you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, you go to school. Let's say you want to be a lawyer. You go to regular college, you study law, then you go to law school, then you pass the bar, then you get a job at a law firm. It might be as again, I'm not as familiar with the legal system, but paralegal for a little bit, and then you become a full lawyer, and then you work your way up, you become partner, There's none of that in voice acting. There's a million different ways to do it, and it's a lot of stumbling through the dark. It's a lot of hoping you don't stub your toe while you're in the dark, and just doing your best. So the more people you can surround yourself who have just a little bit of a flashlight, the better it'll be. And you want to talk to those people, and you want to work with those people, and you want to ask questions and get to know people, because the more people you have around you, the more light you'll have, the easier the path will be to figure out where you're going.
Yeah, that's great advice, man. And you're very honest with it, and you have to be receptive with the advice too. You really got to look inward and be accepting. Like, there are people who are been in the industry longer and who have bridged the path. So just take their advice for, I wouldn't say it's gospel, but just take their advice, and take, like you say, kernels of what you want to take into your career or whatever. But it's really good advice, man. And you could use that advice for anything, really.
Yeah. Building your career is taking different puzzle pieces from everybody around you and still making a coherent puzzle complete image. So it's tricky, but like, you're gonna find your own way. And just for the record, to embarrass you on the podcast, Shane and I work together because Shane also has interest in voiceover, and so I've been we've worked together in the past, and I've helped coach him before. This man has more raw talent in his voice acting than I think anyone I've ever seen. The first thing he ever sent me that was like, "I want to do voice acting because you're doing it, and it seems amazing, and it does seem like a really fun way to live your life and way to pursue money, and just a fun thing for my soul." And I was like, yeah, man, sure. I whenever I find public auditions, I would send them over. And so I found one. I was like, hey, just send me an audition. It's just give me something raw for this. And dude sent me back a thing that was like better than a lot of people who have their demos done. And this is the first thing he had ever just like sat down and voiceover recorded. So let's all encourage Shane to do more voice acting, because he's Goku out there just sitting on. I'm Vegetaing the best I can, where I'm like, I gotta train as hard as possible so I can be as strong. And then this dude walks in with like no effort. Well, not no effort. He put in an effort, but like with no training and no formal education in the thing, just comes in and it's like, hey, I have some raw potential. And I was like, cool, let me see. Oh, it's the size of a planet. Okay, cool. It's a ton of raw potential. So I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him polished up and in some anime soon.
Well, I appreciate you saying that about me. I feel like I'm trash. Really bad.
Yeah, we all do. It's imposter syndrome.
I really appreciate the kind words you say. I always took your advice when I was getting into it. Like I said to you, you were way farther ahead of me. You're 4 years into it. Well, going on 5 now. So of course I'm going to listen to you. What do I know? I don't know anything. So
apparently a bit.
Zach, I do appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. We'll have you on more. We'll talk about more nerdy stuff other than
this is one of my big nerdy things, so I get it.
So
yeah, absolutely. If people want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Zack Krasny, ZackKrasneyVO, and you can see me there. People feel free to hit me up with questions. Generally, this community has given a ton back to me. They answer my questions. Like I said, Louise, who is the one who is just killing it right now, I've reached out to him in the past, and he's answered my questions. I just want to pay it forward and help people out. So if you have questions, feel free to DM me. My DMs are open. Feel free to slide into them. You know what I mean?
Repeat your name. Repeat the name of your account again.
Sure.
Slower though.
It's see, I need to talk slower. It's at Zack Krasny VO. So ZackKrasneyVO on Twitter. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can hit me up there, but I'm fairly bad at LinkedIn. I'm not professional enough for LinkedIn, so I'm a lurker.
Yeah.
And if you'll allow me to plug, again, I train with the Academy of Voice Arts and Production. Dora Fine is the one who she's the mastermind behind it for the most part. She has people who help her for sure, but she's a very hardworking, very loving, very supportive, very kind person, and they have a great team there. Tony Oliver has classes there. They actually do memberships for the academy now, so if you want to, it gives you discounts. It gives you access to a free monthly peer workout where you can work with other voice actors who will give you real-time feedback on your performance, and it's the people who are in there are wonderful people. So it's if you don't mind me plugging, voiceartsacademy.com. And at the top, it'll say the Academy of Voice Arts and Production at Bang Zoom when you get to the website, so you'll know it's the right one. And there's, as of right now, a picture of Tony Oliver from behind helping somebody do some dubs, so you'll know you're in the right spot.
Anything else you want to plug? Like, you have a website? Do you have a...
I do have a website. It's self-built, so it's I think it's good, but it's a little, MySpace. Like MySpace, you're like, oh, hey, I plan on going through and updating my website soon, because I think it needs a little bit of polish, but it's not bad. It's fine. See, this is the imposter syndrome. This is I just told people to be confident in themselves, and I'm like,
I'm sure it's fine. Is okay at best. Come on, man. Get it together.
It's just ZackKrasny.com. So it's the same thing as my Twitter handle without the VO at the end. And you'll go right to me, and you can get my contact info on there. I ask that if you do visit my website, please don't. My contact info, my phone number, my email is on there. If you want to reach out to me with questions, just hit me up on Twitter. I try to leave that open for professionals so that when something comes in, I know what it is. But feel free to visit my website. I've got if you're quick tips for if you're building a voiceover website, put your demos front and center. That's why people are coming. They want to see what you are, and everything else is, the odds of them clicking into your what equipment am I using subpage it's mostly for other voice actors at that point. So if you're building a website, the most important thing is your demos front and center, and then your name and contact info need to be visible. But yeah, ZackKrasny.com or Zack Krasny VO on Twitter.
Nice. Well, that's all we got for you today. Check out the podcast. It comes out every Tuesday morning. The Nerdy Mind on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and the video versions are on YouTube, The Nerdy Mind. Also, the gaming channel is back. I have recently got a gaming PC, and I'm starting to do Xbox, but a little bit of Steam gaming. Actually, a video, when this comes out, a video for the gaming channel comes out. They come out on Saturdays. I played a little bit of Phasmophobia. First real horror game I've ever played, and I tell you this, I was terrified. I was a straight little child when I was playing that game. Because
it sneaks up on you, man. Like you're walking around and all of a sudden it's like dead.
Yeah. And then I'll go watch the video. You'll enjoy it. It's very funny. But I'm gonna play more games like that. I'm trying to get a few people together to play some Pummel Party. It's kind of like Mario Party, but for like adults. They have a lot of fun things on Steam.
If you're into horror games, we got to get you into a group. I haven't played it, but Bryn and my friend Adam play. It's Dead by Daylight. So essentially, it's like Jeepers Creepers, where one person is the creeper, or two people if you have a big enough group, and then everybody else is trying to escape. And it sounds like a lot of fun. So maybe it'll pop up on the nerdy game.
Yeah, Nerdy Mind Gaming. Yep. So yeah, if you want to friend request me on Steam, it's Full Metal _Pipsqueak 117. So friend request me, and then we'll play some from games, and then look out for the episodes on Saturdays. But other than that, as always, stay nerdy, my friends.